What's going on, everybody? I'm Jen Piacenti with Sports Illustrated, and whether you're 0-5 or 5-0, we're here to help you dominate your fantasy football leagues. And because of that, we have to bring in Sports Illustrated's senior fantasy analyst, Michael Fabiano, to help us make those tough start-sit decisions. Fabs, first bye weeks of the season this year might give people a little bit more choices or maybe less choices, but I noticed there's one quarterback on your list that you can even get on the waiver wire.
Yeah, we'll start off with Matthew Stafford, though, in this list of stardom quarterbacks, and he certainly is not going to be on the waiver wire, but that's called a tease, right, guys? And I like him this week against the Giants. He's had 12 touchdowns, only 3 picks so far this season. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback against the G-men. They are all banged up on the offensive side of the football. They've got some injuries on defense as well. They've given up big games to Teddy Bridgewater and Taylor Heineke, so I feel like Stafford should put up great numbers. And speaking of Taylor Heineke, let's hit him with the Heineke here, Piacenti, because he's coming off a stinker last week. Don't jump off the bandwagon. I'd play him against the Chiefs. Their defense has been brutal this season. I mean, this is a defense that's giving up an average of 31.9 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks in their last 4 games. And I think negative game script will be a positive for Heineke, who's going to have to throw the ball a lot. I see him as a very solid QB2 in a 2 QB league. And if you're dealing with injuries and buys, you can start him in traditional leagues too.
Could not agree more. Went out and picked him up for one league where I have a QB on bye. So I'm all behind that Heineke pick. But there are some quarterbacks that you recommend we sit this week, one of which I believe we also sat last week.
Yeah, so Ryan Tannehill, first we'll start off with him. He has had a very uneven season, right? I mean, new offensive coordinator, Julio Jones has been banged up, and basically they give the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times a game. And if that weren't enough to sit Tannehill, well, look at the matchup this week. I mean, the Bills' defense has given up 5 touchdown passes and the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks, so Tannehill should be on your bench in a Monday night game. And then speaking of the quarterback we had to sit last week, Baker Mayfield. And hey, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. He had a big game last week, 23 fantasy points in a game that went completely bananas. The defenses both went out the windows, but now he's got another bad matchup against the Cardinals. They've allowed 7 touchdown passes and the 8th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. So unless you're playing in a multi-QB league, I still say Baker Mayfield is a sit-em.
I agree. Baker Mayfield is a sit for me as well. You're also sitting Derek Carr versus the Broncos. For more start-sit decisions, be sure to visit us at si.com/fantasy.